Hi everyone. It's a good feeling to feel secure, to feel your feet are on firm ground. But that could be a false sense of security if you happen to be near the edge of a cliff in a fog. So nothing hurts me more now than to see Jehovah's Witnesses feeling safe and secure and self-satisfied when they are living on the edge of a cliff in a fog. I know because I was there. That's how I felt, safe and secure. But God got me off the edge of that cliff and out of that fog, and He can do it again with others. For me, it took trauma to wake me up and get me out of my self-satisfaction and false sense of security. God did it the way I needed. So Ryle, in his book, A New Birth, he's talking about, in this chapter that we're dealing with is called, Where Art Thou? So that is the question that God puts to Adam and Eve. And I would say, all of us, where are we before God? Here is what Ryle says. I know no time in a believer's life when his soul is in such real danger as it is when all things go well with him. It is the world's favor which injures believers far more than the world's frown. David committed no adultery when fleeing from the face of Saul. It was when Saul was dead and he was king in his stead, and there was peace in Israel. The flip side is when you're under trial, how do you respond to that? If you want to grow in grace and have a more lively hope, we must seek more faith and contentment in time of trial. Trial often makes a righteous man speak unadvisedly with his lips, and say and do things which rise like mist between his soul and Christ. Trial is a fire which often brings much dross to the surface of a believer's heart, and makes him say, God has forgotten me. There is no hope for my soul. I am cast out of the Lord's sight. I do well to complain. Yet trial is the hand of a Father chastening us for our profit, however slow we may be to believe it. The rod is often sent in answer to a prayer for sanctification. It is one of God's ways to carry on the work of sanctification, which we profess to desire. Jacob and Joseph and Moses and David all found this. Blessed are they who take patiently the Lord's medicine, who bear the cross in silence and say, it is well. Afflictions well borne are spiritual promotions. So I couldn't help thinking of when you first leave the witnesses, you may have a desire to keep your faith, but because of the things that are happening to you, the disappointment, the bitterness, at that point, you can say things or think things that are not really true, but they certainly feel true at the time because you're hurt and you can't understand why you're going through these trials, through this tribulation. But there is a purpose. And for me, I'm glad I went through what I went through because I think it helped me in my Christian life later. Ryle also says, I doubt whether there is much private prayer before and after sermons. Yet remember, hearing alone is not everything. When all is said in the pulpit, only half the work is done. I doubt whether the Bible is as much read as it should be. Nothing in my own short experience has surprised me so much as the contented ignorance of Scripture, which prevails among believers. I doubt whether private prayer is often made a business of, as it should be. We are often satisfied to get up from our knees without having really seen or heard anything of God and His Christ. And all this is wrong. It is the diligent soul that enjoys lively hope. This is the way to be useful Christians. The world knows little of Christ beyond what it sees of Him in His people. Oh, what plain, clearly written epistles they ought to be. A hopeful, growing believer is a walking sermon. He preaches far more than a minister does, for he preaches all the week round, shaming the unconverted, sharpening the converted, showing to all what grace can do. Such a one does good indeed by his life, and after death, what great broad evidences he leaves behind him. We carry him to the grave without one unpleasant doubt. Oh, the value and power of a growing Christian. The Lord make you and me such. This is the way to be happy Christians. Happiness is the gift of God, but that there is the closest connection between full following of God and full happiness, let no man for an instant doubt. A hopeful, growing believer has the witness within himself. He walks in the full light of the sun, and therefore he generally feels bright and warm. He does not quench the Spirit by continual inconsistencies, and so the fire within him seldom burns low. He has great peace, because he really loves God's law, and all that see him are obliged to allow that it is a privilege and not a bondage to be a Christian. Oh, the comfort of a tender conscience, a godly jealousy, a close walk with God, a heavenly frame of mind. So many of us who leave the Watchtower are either because we wanted to leave or because we were thrown out. We often are cut off from our family and friends. And I know the frustration and heartache that brings, because you're no longer able to help them wake up. And that's your desire. But they won't speak with you, connect with you. One thing that we can do as ex-witnesses is to grow our faith, to become growing, strong, and consistent Christians for the day when we can communicate with them. Because I believe that trauma is coming to the organization. I believe there will be fallout from the organization, others who will come out because of trauma like I did. And we have to be prepared for them so that we can help them. Even if the day does not come when we can speak to our own loved ones, our family and our friends, we can at least live a good Christian life so that we leave a good testimony behind us. I'm going to link to two videos. One is called A Message for All XJWs, a threefold conversion, and this is based on a video where it's in 3 parts, where I'm reading a sermon by one of our ministers. And this first part is about God must come to us before we come to Him. And the second one is the gift of suffering, how you can make use of the pain that you're going through. And it's my testimony based on a book by F.B. Meyer.